They're one of the biggest and most influential bands in heavy metal and have been around for decades. They've sold over 30 million albums, and in 2010, Judas Priest won their first Grammy Award for Best Metal Performance. And this morning, we are so pleased to spend the next hour with Judas Priest frontman Rob Halford, starting now on Private Sessions. That was Judas Priest performing one of their many anthems, Livin' After Midnight, from their breakthrough album, British Steel, which, by the way, has been remastered and re-released as the British Steel 30th Anniversary Editions. Very exciting. Rob, welcome to the show.
Great to be here. Thank you so much. I love this, the Private Sessions, and here's the metal god from Judas Priest talking about all the wonderful things that we're celebrating with the 30th anniversary of British Steel. Can you believe it?
So
30
exciting.
years have gone.
You know, and I have to mention that we would have loved to have had KK and Glenn and Ian and Scott
And
here.
they do send their love.
Yeah, you're the only one in New York City, is that right?
Yeah, they're hard working over in the UK and Europe, doing what I'm doing here throughout the States. So we're all connected.
Yes.
I say hi to everybody and their best wishes, and look forward to seeing everybody in 2011 when we come back to America.
Wow, you guys are busy. I have to say, though, anyone, I have to say, those of you at home watching right now, don't even change the channel thinking, oh, it's Rob and we're not going to get to see Judas Priest, because, oh, yeah, you've got some stuff coming up, and I'll tell you about that coming up in a little bit. But first, I have to just say congratulations. I was watching the Grammys this year, 2010. Judas Priest wins a Grammy. You've been nominated a lot of times, but this was the first win for you.
Yeah.
Were you surprised?
5th nomination, and you are genuinely surprised because you have no idea. To be nominated is a tremendous honour, but to actually be in the room where they're going through the lists of people that have nominated and the Grammy goes to, and the Grammy goes to Judas Priest, and everything is in slow motion. We've won the Grammy, you know. It really is like your head goes off like it's the 4th of July.
Did you have anything prepared at all?
No, nothing at all. I mean, I've watched that show so many times like yourself, and you wonder, what does it feel like, and what would you say if you did win? And I had a bit of a sleepless night thinking that, you know, if we do win, and it's my great pleasure to say a few thank yous, will I remember everybody? So between the seat and the walk down the aisle to the stage, don't forget to say so, don't forget to remember to say so and so. And, you know, so then you're on stage and you're doing your, because they ask you, keep it short, keep it short.
Yeah, sure.
And then you've said it, and then they've given you what's kind of a generic Grammy. And then as you say thank you and you walk off, they take the Grammy from you. And you're like, no, this is mine, you know, we've won this. They go, no, we send yours in the post, which we all received recently, some months later.
So it's a prop Grammy that
it's a prop Grammy. It's a real Grammy, but it's not inscribed. But from that moment on, you're in the Grammy Club, if you can call it that.
This is a genre that you basically, for all intents and purposes, created.
Isn't it wonderful? Yeah. We've often said that we're blessed to have kind of been born and grown and lived through a very important musical era. As we became teenagers and really heavily involved into wanting to be musicians, we were surrounded by incredibly inspiring and influential people. And so, yeah, I think there's some truth to the fact that that Judas Priest it's us. We invented the heavy metal experience, and that's a tremendous honour.
It is exciting. And then when they made it a genre on the Grammys as a category,
yes.
I was right for it. I had a really quick question. Was that a song that was recorded that you won, by the way, in the 70s?
It was, and that's what made it equally special.
Crazy,
it was
right?
for Best Metal
Dissident
Performance.
Aggressor off of Touch of Evil, right?
And Dissident Aggressor from the first record that we had with Columbia CBS at the time. It was originally on a recording from the 70s, so that was really cool.
Sweet
that it was
story.
a combo of the two. It was performance, which we absolutely still today and always will. We love getting on stage in front of our fans and playing our metal. And for that song that was from some time ago.
I bet. That was so. I was just so excited for you. I was one of the millions, I'm sure, that were like, yes.
Well, it was from, we call it the metal community. It was not only for Priest, but it was for metal.
Well, you know, the reason why you're here, of course, today is celebrating a milestone which we set up at the front of the show, which is the 30th anniversary of British Steel. and it's a special edition set that you've so graciously allowed us to play selections from during the show. So we're going to be seeing performances off of this DVD special, but there's still like a total of 16. Did you guys record this last year when you were on tour?
Yeah, in the summer of 2009 in Florida. That was the place that we looked at as we were going through this British Steel experience. It was the second leg of an American tour that originally kicked off celebrating Nostradamus, which is our big concept moment we've been waiting for so long to do, and we still have a lot of work to do later on with Nostradamus. But someone tapped us on the shoulder while we were on the European section of the world tour and said, you know, it's the 30th anniversary of Steel in 2010, and it's like disbelief, 30 years. But the idea was to prep and prepare for this wonderful year of the 30th.
What a treat for fans who saw you guys out on tour last year. They got the whole album from beginning to end.
So we figured out that that Florida was a great place to bring in the trucks and all the setup. It was a very big affair. But we've got it all down on this fabulous DVD, and we're playing all of the British Steel record with some extra Priest songs towards the end, and it's just a tremendously unusual way of seeing Priest in that new kind of manner. We'd never done anything like this before.
And also you have a CD, a part of this 30th anniversary set, and it has a couple of bonus tracks. Can you explain the difference between the one that you guys released online versus the one that you can buy retail?
Yeah, and this is the world we live in. You know, we come from the vinyl times.
Yeah,
you know, the plastic
times
with a hole in the middle. You know, in today's modern world, you have to think of all of the different formats, as they're called. So we have the digital formats that you can get through an internet download experience. The jewel box, the hard physical copies, as we know them to be, they're still the real fan favourites, and so we have different presentations of the box set of British Steel 30th anniversary through the Priest site, judaspriest.com, which is a great place to go and hang out at, judaspriest.com, for the band, but for also all the other cool things that happen with metal. You can get the Judas Priest Deluxe edition, which is the vinyl, or rather the DVD of the show. A really nice, not really a documentary, but it's the band talking about the making of British Steel. It's very informative.
Nice.
And then the soundtrack of the show with some extra songs, and the remixed, remastered original British Steel. So it's a nice combo in that one selection. And then there are the other kind of slightly different ways of enjoying it. So it's pick and choose, you know.
There's a lot to keep you busy
you want
for a long
this
time.
way, this way, this way. And that's the joy, really, of if you're a fan of metal and you just want the DVD, or you just want the internet experience, whatever you need, we've got it there for you.
Yes, they have found a way to immerse you in everything that is Judas Priest. And when we come back,
Judas Priest's Breaking the Law, off the 30th anniversary edition of British Steel.
that was the incredible Judas Priest performing Breaking the Law, Breaking the Law. Another one of their first pumping anthems off of their new release, British Steel 30th Anniversary Editions. Yes, it's out now, so very exciting stuff. Before I get to a little surprise that I have for you, I wanted to talk about how I love the little look you have.
Surprise.
Yes, we do like to surprise
surprise,
people on the show. But before we get there, how things started for you. Judas Priest started in 1969 by other people.
Yeah, yeah.
And you didn't come to join the band until 72. Can you elaborate on the story there? All I know is it had something to do with your sister dating one of the guys?
Fabulous sister Sue. She was dating Ian, the bass player of Priest at the time.
Okay, Ian Hill.
Yeah, I was in some local outfits that were, we were just playing around town, and I suppose when you're in any band, you want as many people to come and see you and talk about you as you possibly can.
Of course.
So when Sue heard that there was an audition waiting for the singer of Priest, she thankfully, thank you, Sue, said, you know, my brother sings in a band, and maybe you should consider him for an audition. So as a result of that, a couple of days later, I met Ian and KK, who were the members of Priest at that time, and I took the drummer that I was working with at that particular period with me to a rehearsal studio that was famously called Holy Joe's, because the local Catholic priest, whose name was Father Joe, would rent out this little room next to the church. This is crazy, Judas Priest. And that's where we would rehearse. But there we were, the four of us, and we jammed for an afternoon, and it felt good. And so that was my first professional experience with Judas Priest, as it was at that time.
Yeah, and I bet they were pretty impressed with your 4-octave range there. I mean, that must have just was it an instant connection with the two of them? Because KK and Ian knew each other since they were kids, right?
Yeah, they'd been in each other's company forever, through school and so forth. But as far as singing goes, I think every singer is blessed with a different set of pipes. Some of us stay in one register, one octave. I've always been fascinated with what the human voice can do, because I love all kinds of singers, metal singers especially, but I can just as much enjoy what Sinatra does, or Elvis, or Pavarotti as anyone else.
Nice. And obviously you hit it off, because here you are,
Yeah,
40 years later, celebrating a 30th anniversary. I can't believe it.
Yes.
And you look great, by the way.
Thank you so much.
And you still have all of it.
Thank you.
Let me just
Yeah,
say.
okay.
Before we go anywhere, a friend of yours, this is the surprise,
Okay.
and a fan of yours,
Okay.
friend of mine, heard you were going to be here, and, well, he wanted to ask you a question.
All right.
Take a look.
Okay.
Hey, Rob, it's D. And I'm not going to pull a Gene Simmons on you and shamelessly self-promote my band and my band's website, twistedsister.com, or even my radio show, House of Hair, heard on now over 220 stations in North America. No, I don't do that. But I am a sarcastic son of a bitch, Rob, and I'm not going to do that either, dude, because you and your band were a huge influence on me and my band. So my question for you is, how much of an influence were other Birmingham metal bands, Led Zeppelin with Robert Plant and John Bonham coming from Birmingham, and of course Black Sabbath? How much of an influence were they on you and Priest?
Thank you, Dee.
D, thank you.
Love Dee, Twisted Sister, really important band, you know, so significant through the 80s and even now. Those great songs that Dee and the boys made will live forever. And that's a really cool question. Again, how great it was to be born and raised in the Midlands, the West Midlands of the UK, slap bang in the heart of England, Great Britain, and to have as your neighbours Geezer, Tony, Bill, Ozzy from Sabbath, and as Dee pointed out, John Bonzo on drums.
Something
and
in the
Plant.
water, maybe?
Either that or the beer. We're famous for
could
our
be it.
British beer. But yes, for me as a singer, Robert Plant was incredibly inspiring. I know that you know, I would try and imitate, emulate some of the things
Sure.
that he did, because I said, how does he do that? You know, how does he get into those incredible levels of performance? And so I would do my little, you know, stand in front of the mirror with a mic, and you know, the fake mic.
Hairbrush.
I'm holding it now. The hairbrush. Yeah, I had hair in those days.
Back then.
And I'd be like, yeah, you know, a whole lot of love and that kind of thing. And so, yeah, Dee's right. I think if you ask any significant band about their own musical heroes, you'll find that there's a group or an individual musician that is part of your beginnings.
Now, you guys were the first to have what is referred to as screaming guitars. I always found that interesting that you were the first band to really have 2 lead guitars. Was that really the foundation of the metal sound, would you say?
I would say it was an important ingredient, definitely, yeah. For a while, Priest were a 4-piece, and then I remember the day when KK was saying, just before we made our first record, actually, I think it would be really interesting if we brought in a second guitar player. And I thought that was a pretty selfless act, because a lot of bands have one guitar player and one singer.
Well, everyone wants the spotlight.
Yeah, exactly. And I thought, how cool is that KK should be thinking in the big picture of what's best for the band.
Yeah.
And of course, at the time, Glenn was in his own solo outfit, and KK knew how good a guitar player that Glenn was. And we actually went to see Glenn play at a venue and proposed the idea to him at the end of his show, and he said yes. So now we were a 5-piece, and because of that twin guitar attack, I think we created something very new and very special in the early moments of heavy metal.
Sure did. Well, coming up, why Rob Halford left Judas Priest and went out on his own, only to shock and delight fans by reuniting with his bandmates 12 years later. Plus, we've got more hits from Judas Priest and crowd favorites from the British Steel 30th Anniversary editions when Private Sessions returns. Come back. That was Judas Priest performing another headbanging hit, Free Wheel Burning. Now, Rob Halford originally joined Judas Priest in 1972 and was in the band for 20 years before leaving to go out on his own. But incredibly, fans got their wish when, after close to 12 years later, Rob reunited with his former bandmates back in 2004. What made you the decision to go back and join up with your bandmates?
Well, that's the band that I was destined to be for all of my life, and it's amazing that time that I was away seemed to have vanished when we regrouped and we came together with the great classic reunion album, Angel of Retribution. I think for me, on the personal journey that I went on was when I was away from Priest. It was important, it was valuable, but it seemed that the longer I was away, the more I was waiting to get back. I think
Oh, really?
there's that expression, isn't there? There's a great song, isn't it? You don't know what you've got till it's gone.
Yep.
You know? And I think that because we'd worked so hard for, as you pointed out, so many years, in retrospect, we look back now and think, you know, if only we'd have taken a couple of years break and kind of decompressed a little bit,
right,
that might have changed. But, you know, hindsight, whatever you want to call it. When we came back with Angel of Retribution, it was an absolutely spectacular moment. Of course, Priest was carrying on. That's the great story. Is Priest was
Different
still
singer.
Priest. Yes, with Tim Ripperones, who did a tremendous job. But like all great things in rock and roll, if you can get the original lineup, that's a really attractive and special, unique thing to have.
When we come back, Judas Priest performs one of their biggest hits, You've Got Another Thing Coming. And that's the name of the song, too. Right here on A&E's Private Sessions. Don't go anywhere. That was Judas Priest performing You've Got Another Thing Coming. It was off of their new release, British Steel 30th Anniversary Editions. We got another surprise for Rob Halford, who is in the house this morning representing.
2 surprises?
I know. Can you
Wow.
believe it? Can you take it? Again, another fan and cohort. That's the only word I can think of. Cohort.
Yeah, okay.
Had a question for you.
All
He
right.
heard you were going to be around town.
All right.
Take a look.
No.
Well then, hello Rob. Let me hear your old buddy. Question. Since you have got one of the most acrobatic voices in the history of mankind, and I've never heard it fail all the gigs we've done together, what do you do to grease it? What do you do to keep it glowing and fresh? All right. Another question. Number 2 in the present series. What is your most embarrassing moment not involving the motorcycle?
I love you, Lemmy. Everybody
great.
in Priest, he's you know, there is only one Lemmy.
Oh, yeah.
And there's Lemmy smoking his cigarette with some Jack and Coke on
Asking
the table.
you how you keep your pipes.
and Lemmy's got the most amazing voice. Talking about me, Lemmy's got the voice in rock and roll. I think rock and roll is that voice, you know. But you know, as far as how you keep it in shape, I haven't got a clue. I mean, I certainly don't drink and smoke and do all the other things that I think are useful. Just because of the fact that with what I try and do, it's important to try and look after it, and it's a physical part of your being, and you just want to be able to deliver on the night that you're performing, and it's the same as all of us in Priest. You know, before a show, KK's warming up, Glenn's warming up, Scott, Ian, everybody's getting ready, and practice is an absolutely important part of staying on top of your game. Doesn't get any easier because you're more successful when you have the platinum discs on the wall. Those are wonderful, but the proof of the pudding, as they say, is when you're actually live on stage with your fans, whether it's in Japan or Rio or Rome or London, LA, New York. Your fans have waited a year, 2 years to see you, so you don't want to drop the ball. You want to give them the best show. So, no, there's no tricks or lotions or
special
potions
teas,
or goat
right.
head soup or satanic rituals, and none of that. I do have a cup of tea. I have a cup of tea before I go out and
Well, that's a
do
simple.
my screaming. Yeah.
That might be it. You may not have even thought about it.
There
It's
you
the
go.
most obscure thing, and that's what keeps
Yeah,
it all tuned
yeah.
up. What
But,
about the embarrassing moment?
There was a time in my career in Priest when I had this kind of affectionate relationship with fire extinguishers.
Really?
Don't ask me why, but if ever I saw a fire extinguisher, like there's one in the corner there, but those days are gone now, I'd have to see how well that fire extinguisher would work, you know.
Oh, you mean you were
And,
just curious?
Yeah, like curious, like how would it be if I set up a fire extinguisher in an elevator and sent it up to the 10th
Oh,
floor?
come on.
Yeah, really crazy rock and roll stuff, yes.
Of course, there were people to make sure that you were not.
Oh yes, it was
Seen
nothing
on
to
the
do
scene
with me.
at
But
all.
those are some of the early metal memories when I was a kid.
Maybe one day you'll write a book.
Yes, you never know.
God!
Here we are in the green room.
When I say God, I mean God. Oh, God.
Give me some of that. Metal 90.
Yeah! Welcome back to Private Sessions. My guest this hour has been Rob Halford of Judas Priest, and we're almost out of time. Metallica had to go through a long time with therapy and spent a lot of money to save their band. Did anything like that have to happen for Judas Priest?
No, and I think just because it's the British nature of things, you know, you don't really talk that much about the emotional sides of what you go through. And again, much like Metallica, there comes a point in your career when the music is bigger than you are.
Okay.
So the music is more important than a squabble or a disagreement. The music has this tremendous life of its own, and that might sound crazy, a little bit schizophrenic, but it's
No,
true.
it makes
And
sense.
so I think there comes a point when you go, look, does this really matter? All that really matters is the band being the band and the music being the music. So no, I think in all of the years that we've been together as a band, we've never really been faced with any difficulty that we couldn't overcome.
Well, also, too, you know, there's wisdom with age, too, I
Oh,
think.
I believe that.
So Glenn Tipton once said that, you know, playing heavy metal music was therapeutic in a way, a non-violent way of getting out aggression. Would you agree with that?
100%, absolutely. I think the essence of all music is to have a healing quality, no matter how you take it. And some people that don't understand heavy metal kind of ignore that fact that it's metal therapy. When you go to a metal show, everybody's screaming. It's very physical. People are jumping around, and for an outsider that isn't familiar with our music and our world, it can be quite a terrifying experience. But it's just the opposite. At the end of a show, all of us in Priest are exhausted physically and mentally. Our fans feel the same way. You know, you just let off all that steam.
It's
you
a
let off
good
all that-
exhaustion,
Yeah, it's a
though.
good pent-up.
Yeah,
It's no different to
cathartic.
go and see your favourite ball game or, you know, soccer, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
Your exchange of the moment, you know, all the screaming and the yelling and the adrenaline is very, very good for you, and that's definitely the case with metal.
Yeah, and unlike a sporting event when you have a winning team and a losing team, at a show, everybody wins.
Everybody wins. That's it. Everybody wins. And
Everybody wins when Judas Priest
if
is in the house.
Yeah, you see everybody pouring out of a metal show. They're dripping wet with sweat. They're exhausted. They've got a smile on their face. And most certainly, you know, and we've had numerous occasions where people have thanked us in very deep ways for the way that our music that we make in Judas Priest has helped them
Sure.
through difficulties in life. So there's the testimony right there.
Rob, it has been such a pleasure spending the hour with you.
It's been great, and an hour's gone by so quickly, and I hope we'll get a chance to sit down with you again in
I
the not
hope
too
so.
distant metal future. We'll have KK here and Glenn here,
Yep.
and hopefully Scott and Ian as well. It's been wonderful. Thank you for having me.
We'd love it. Thank you very
Thank you.
much. Finally, get to meet the
Pleasure.
man.
Thank you so much.